Are you still juggling contacts across spreadsheets, emails, and sticky notes? Let me show you how to build a clean, modern CRM using just Airtable. Check it out. Welcome back. I'm Zack from InnerDev Solutions. We help businesses streamline their processes using custom no-code tools so you can focus on what matters most. To learn more, you can visit our website, innerdevsolutions.com, or use the link in the description below. Airtable has built-in AI features that can assist in building out applications, and it does a good job. But before instructing their AI to build your CRM, it's important to know what you actually need, and each business will have some different requirements. The CRM we build today might not be an exact match to what you need, but you will learn how to think about your requirements and the core skills to build both the database and interface. So let's get into it here. Very first thing that you'll need is a contacts table or a people table, which will include things like the contact name, email, and phone, just to name a few. Come into Airtable. If you do not have an account already, there's a link in the description below to get started. We can go up and create a new table. Now, as I mentioned, there is this icon over here. You can build out your entire Airtable CRM using this. If you're new, I like building this out so you have an understanding how things are together. And if you do want to use the AI function, if you're a little bit more experienced and you understand the core database concepts and you just want to build a little bit faster, best practice in my experience is to at least put an outline of what you actually need. You're not going to get the best result always when you say, build me a CRM, because as I just mentioned, a lot of companies will have a few unique things to their business related to that CRM and how they want to actually construct their database. So good thing to do, open up a notepad on your computer or a physical notepad where you can write things down in Airtable as well. I'm just going to go over to this extension, and it's just a basic text box and description option here. Bullet point a few things. I'm just going to list the things we may need in our CRM. What we're going to build here in a moment is the contacts table. We're going to need a company. This is where your specific business or use case might vary a little bit depending on how you want to set these things up, but pretty much the case for all businesses, especially if they're dealing with another business and they're not doing direct to consumer. You're probably going to have a contact table and you're going to need a company table at the very bare minimum. From here, something else we can add in, and this is where things can differ. If your business, you're planning on building an order management system to link with this type of data, or you're going to need location data for some other reason. Maybe you're a service type business that, let's say HVAC, and you go across to different facilities or different locations related to one company to perform service. You are going to need that information broken out differently. Now, if it's not as relevant and you just need the head office address or a billing address or something, you could potentially add in the address or billing information directly in the company table. For this use case, I'm going to create a new table and call it locations that will link back to the company. Well, there's a lot of different additional tables you can add in, interactions or activities, whatever you want to call it, where you maybe record the conversations that you have with these contacts. Now, if you are the type of business where you have a high volume of conversations, emails, phone calls, whatever it may be with your customers, and you want to log all of those, in that case, Airtable is not the best option for you. A more traditional CRM that automatically brings in those types of conversations might be a better option. You can build that in Airtable, but it is much more complicated to achieve. But if it's a smaller number of conversations that you have, or you're not as concerned about recording everything, then you could absolutely use Airtable still and create a table called activities or maybe interactions, something along those lines. And then there's a lot of other things, but one last one I'm going to touch on as a deals table as well. And like I said, we can add a lot of additional tables depending on what it is that you're actually trying to build. This is what we're going to work off of today, are these 5 tables here, and we can go from there. I'm going to build out the contacts and company table quickly, and then we can continue on. I'm just going to hide this, go into the table, call this contact, Hit save. Now, before I add in the information or the other fields that we're going to include in the contacts table, I'm just going to continue on and add in a new table, call it company. And one thing I should mention as well, now that we have the idea or the tables that we need within our CRM, and you should probably take it a step further, maybe add in all the field names that you want to include, like contact name, email, and so on. I would add in all of that within your note. And then from there, you come into the AI option built into Airtable and say, create me tables or create the following tables with these field names or something along those lines. And it does a pretty good job of creating those tables, but we're going to go through and do this all manually. I'm just going to delete all these fields. We can start from scratch on each of these. And I know we have a locations table. Again, I'm going to delete all those fields, create a deals table, and I will create the interactions or the activities table. We can go into contacts, and I'm going to keep this entire database relatively simple and just bring in the core information. Every company is going to need unique data points related to each table, but we'll just bring in the core pieces, something like contact name. You could bring in two different fields, first name and last name, but I'm just going to bring in a single select or single line text field, and we'll call this full name or contact name, and I will create that field. Bring in an email field and a phone number. One other one I'm going to bring in for now is I'm going to link to another record. I'm going to link to the company table. We will only allow linking to one company. Create that. So now this field here links to the company table, and you can see that automatically created the linked record back in reverse. One other thing I'm going to do so that we have a unique contact ID or contact name for each customer is I'm going to bring in an auto number, and each contact will be assigned a unique ID. Now in this, we can go contact ID. We'll bring in the formula field type, and then we're just going to bring in the name, the contact name, separate it with an and symbol. In quotes, we're just going to put a dash, and then outside of the quotes, we'll use another and, which is going to concatenate this ID, and we can just bring in this ID field. Hit save, confirm that change, and now I can add in different contacts, and you can see that the contact ID will be generated for us. Now moving on to the company table, there's things like the website that we might want to bring in, which is a URL type. We can bring in the website. Maybe there is a head office phone number or a company phone number that we would like to include. We already have it able to link to the contacts table. Here, I'm going to call this company name. And in this case, because most companies or all companies should have their own unique name, I'm not going to worry about creating a formula. We can just add in some test data here, and I'll link this to a contact. And now we can see back in the contacts table, we have Zack linked to the company Acme Co. Of course, in the company table, you can add in size, industry, other types of information, data points that are relevant to your business and what you need to track within your CRM. Next thing, I'm just going to move on to the locations. We're going to link a company to the locations table, and this will allow us to track multiple locations per company. If I just start typing in location, it will identify that we have a table labeled that, and we actually will allow linking to multiple records because one company can have multiple locations. Before I continue, I'm going to jump into the locations table. I'm just going to right click and go edit field. And then I'm going to turn off allow linking to multiple records because we actually only want a location linking back to one company. We can confirm that change. Now we're going to add a few additional fields. You could break this out to street 1, street address 2, city, postal code, all that type of information. I'm just going to create a long text field to keep things simple for today and call it address. Bring in a single select as well, and we'll call this type. And we'll just also keep this really simple. We'll create a billing and a shipping link to this Acme company, and we can create a couple of different addresses. The shipping address is going to be 555 Main Street. We can add in an address here, and then we'll also link to this Acme again, And this one's going to be a shipping address, and it can be 123 Fifth Ave, New York. And in this case, good thing to do, we will create a location ID, and to make it unique, what we'll do here is we will bring in the address field. We'll use the and symbol, separate it with a dash, and we'll bring in the company name. Hit save, confirm that change, and we can see here we have a unique location ID. Depending on your type of businesses, the services, and the products that you offer, this deals table can differ. Now we can have just one table here related to the deals that links back to the company and the contact. But if this is something where you also create the quote within the CRM, it might make sense to create a deal items table as well, or this could be called quotes in a quote items table that links the two. You would have your deal or your quote with the items and products that you're actually adding to that quote. So it all is dependent on your type of business. I'm going to keep it a little bit simpler for today. I'm just going to link this to the company table, and we're just going to link to one company, and I'll link this to the contacts table. And now this could actually link to one or multiple contacts if there's multiple contacts that are related to a specific deal. I'll just leave that as is, and I'll come into here, select the company. I will select myself as the contact, and now we have the start of our deal setup. Another thing that we're going to bring in is this auto number, because we will create a unique ID for all of our deals. We will create a deal ID, which has been pretty consistent across our platform so far. And now in this case, maybe what I will do is bring in the ID field. I'll use the and, separate it with a dash, and I'll bring in the company, and that should create a unique ID for us. Now, in this table, you could add things like a currency field and call this deal value if you wanted. We could add in a stage or a single line select in this case, and then call this stage, and you create the different stages, which is just maybe a quote or proposal, closed. We can add in all the different stages that are relevant to your use case. We can have an expected closing date as well for this deal. As I mentioned, there's a lot of different fields that we can add in here related to the specific deal itself. And the last thing is activities. I'm not going to get into this one all that much, but a couple things that we may need is a link to the company. We may need a link to the contact that we spoke with, and link this to a specific deal as well. And then we can bring in a long text field that is just called notes, where we can record information relevant to the specific deal when we have conversations with different contacts. Here we can call this activity ID. And again, I like using the auto number field to make this unique. I'm just going to create a formula, just linking it to the ID. One other field we might need in the activities table, we can come in, right click, and we will insert a date, which we can create here. Now that we have the core and basic setup for our CRM, we've linked all of the different tables, we can go in and create our interface now. Now with Airtable's interfaces, it makes it way easier to interact with your data and build out a page or an interface that's easier for your team or your company to work with this different data once it's set up correctly. Now we can go into interface. We can use the either option really, try building with AI or build it yourself. In this case, as long as you have the core CRM and tables set up correctly ahead of time, I would recommend giving this a shot and see what it comes up with for you. But I'm just going to go in and build it myself for now, and we can build an interface. We have different options here down the left side. So there's things like list and gallery, Kanban, calendar, time, and so on. One that I like working within, or I'm going to work within in this case, is this record review. And I'm just going to go ahead and select next. Now, a lot of this is just based off of your preferences on how you want to set up and display the information. But mine, I like working within this record review, especially within our CRM use case. Now, the table that we're actually going to focus on to start, I'm going to select this company table. So I can hit next. I'm going to bring in the deals and activities as well, and we can hit next. I'll just call this company. Hit finish. And now we have our interface set up within the record review. High level, what this view is, we can click this new interface here and it separates things. The hierarchy is like the interface, which is a collection of the different pages that you can add within. In this case, I've just labeled it interface, and then company is just a page, and a page is what we can see here. So if I come up, click add page to interface, we get this choose layout option again so that you can display all of your data in different types of formats. So again, if you prefer list view or calendar view, timeline, something like that, this is where you can add to that. I'm just going to work within this company record review type for now, and we can go from there. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to customize the display of the page or the company pages. If you want to make things editable, you can. And that's what I'm going to do in this video, is make most things editable so that we can change information as needed. The company name, we can see we'll make that editable because it's a single line text field. Now this one, to make edits here or to add different contacts, you actually have to go in and allow this link and unlink records, because the data and records don't actually exist within the company table. They exist in the contacts table. Now you can go in, select add contact, and add different contacts that actually exist within the table. And just really quickly, if we wanted to add or edit different contacts, we could come in, add a new page. Maybe we'll choose the list view. It's already got contacts here for us. And now we can add that in and we can view the different contacts. If I scroll down to the bottom, we can allow editing and adding of records in line. If there's a new contact we needed to add, we could add them here. Or if we needed to make an adjustment to the email or phone number, we could do it right in. Back into the company, I'm just going to hide this page so that we have a little more real estate to work with. And that's how we would add in the different contacts. Basically for each of these, the website, phone number, all pretty straightforward. If you click on it, we can move things around up and down, left and right. If we wanted website and phone number to be beside each other, that's fine as well. We can see the different locations here. And now for something like locations, I like changing it to the view type, and we'll bump it down here for us. And we can see that we have all sorts of different settings and options now. This is going to list out all of the locations relevant to this specific company. What we can also do is add records through a form, or you can allow, if we click into the table, we can allow editing and adding of records right in line. If we go into fields with this context selected, which is the table within the locations. So this allows us to show and hide the fields that exist within this table. If we go fields, we can see that it allows us to select the company, but we don't need to see that because we actually are within the company already within this type of view. We'll just add the type, and I'm actually going to hide the location ID because that's not all that relevant either. I'm going to drag type up to be the start. If I scroll back down, we can collapse this field and we will expand the address field a little bit here as well. Now, if I go into preview mode, we can see how this is set up. We got company name, we've got the contacts, website and phone, deals. We'll get into this in a moment. And then we can see down here, we have the different locations. If we wanted to add another shipping location, so 999 Bay Street, we'll add this one in Toronto as well. We now have an additional location set. I'm going to toggle off this preview, go down to the deals. And in this case, it might also make sense to change this into a view type. And if we select the table within the deals section here, we can add and hide different views. I'm going to hide the deal ID. I'm going to leave this ID, and I can bring in different things like I want to see who the contact is, maybe the deal value, the stage, and the expected closing date. And should probably bump up a couple of these. I can again collapse this ID, collapse the stage, collapse the expected closing date, and we can leave the rest as is. We can see here that we have all of the information displayed in a little bit nicer fashion. Again, I'm not going to worry about the activities so much today, so I'm just going to remove this. When we come into the company page, We can select or search for the company that we're looking for, and we can see all of the data related to them. If we need to add more fields, we can click that, and we can add in fields that already exist or create new fields. Now, last thing I'm going to get into, and there's way more that you can do within the interfaces, but we're going to keep it simple to start, is if we wanted to see more details related to the deal record, for example, we can come into here. We'll just select the record and it will say, do you want to allow users to open record details? And we will allow this, and it's going to create this new deal pop-out page for us. And this is where we can add additional information if we want to show more detail here. Because let's say we had 40 or 50 different fields. We don't want to display them all here and make the user scroll all the way across to see all this different types of information. We just want to show the core information here, allow them to click into it, and then this pop-out view, they would be able to display the additional information. Now, this is a lot to take in. I would recommend just playing around with it, trying to build out different interfaces, and the more you use it, the more you'll get familiar with where these different menus and settings are. I know it is a lot, but there's so much you can do within Airtable interfaces. But the most important part is getting your database right before you jump into building the interfaces. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you hit that subscribe button for more tutorials in the future.